On December 26, 2022, the MMA community and One Championship community lost a very young figure in their community. Victoria Lee passed away tragically at the age of 18. She was the younger sister of One World Champions Angela and Christian Lee. Just again, a horrible, horrible loss. My condolences go out to her and her family. Also, One Championship as well, as they are grieving. Rest in peace, Victoria Lee. Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 26. In this episode, I will be previewing the first UFC card of 2023. That is UFC Fight Night Strickland versus Imavov. And also, I want to touch on the one card that is this Friday. And also, I want to give my thoughts on Dana White facing the media. Yesterday, he spoke to the media for about 13 minutes, so definitely want to go over that in this episode. Ring that bell! All right, let's get started. Just some matchups that I want to highlight on this card. First up, we have a flyweight bout. We have Charles Johnson taking on Jimmy Flick. Next up, we have a featherweight bout. We have Dan Arqueta. Moving on, we have a bantamweight bout. We have a battle of the undefeateds. We have Javid Basharat taking on Matis Mendoconda. I believe that's how you say his name. This is a very interesting matchup on the prelims. This is probably one of the better fights, if not the best fight on the prelims. So this matchup, definitely pay attention to this one. Then the last fight that I want to highlight on the prelims is a middleweight bout. We have Claudio Redillo taking on Abdul Razarat Al Sahan. This fight is going to probably not last very long. Both these guys are pretty exciting stand-up fighters. So this fight should be pretty entertaining. Moving on to the main card, kicking it off, we have a bantamweight bout. We have Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Raoni Barcelos. Moving on, we have a women's bantamweight bout. We have Caitlin Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington. This should be a pretty good fight. Raquel Pennington she is currently on a 3-fight win streak, so she is surging right now. In the next bout, it is a middleweight bout, and it is Pule Seriano taking on Roman Kapilov. This should be a stand-up affair. Both men like to strike. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, it is a featherweight bout. We got Dan Ige taking on Damian Jackson. Dan Ige is currently on a 3-fight losing streak, so he definitely needs to pick up a win in this. And on the other side, his opponent, Jackson, he's on a 4-fight win streak, so really just two guys at opposite streaks right now. I mean, Dan Ige, he really needs a win here. So this should be a interesting co-main event. Dan Ige, his last one was a pretty brutal knockout over Gavin Tucker, I believe. But that was a little while ago now. So, let's see what Dan Ige can do to kind of change the tides right now in his career. And Damian Jackson's really just looking to keep that momentum going. Now, let's move on to the main event of the evening. Obviously, the main event was supposed to be Nasruddin Imavov taking on Kelvin Gastelum, but Kelvin Gastelum had to drop out of the fight, due to an injury to his mouth, I believe. Pretty brutal injury from what I saw from the picture. So now steps in Sean Strickland, which with just a couple weeks rest, to be honest. His last fight was the last card of 2022, and he had a decision loss to Jared Cannonier, and he was very aggravated at that loss. He thought that he won, so now he comes back just about a couple weeks later and tries to get a W. I'm interested to see if he changes his fighting style at all. Imavov is on a 3-fight win streak. 2 of those 3 wins were by stoppage. His last win was against Joaquin Buckley, and that was by decision win. So, very interesting to see how Nasruddin Imavov kind of, performs at more of the top end of this, middleweight division. Now, the fight is a light heavyweight bout because of the short notice nature of this main event. So, very excited, very interested to really watch this card. I've been starving for live MMA to watch. This card, it's not super stacked with names that are huge, but again, there are a lot of Dana White Contender Series alumni on this show, and there are a lot of people that are trying to get their names made this year. So hopefully all these fighters, they come out guns blazing. Hopefully they try to get their 2023 year off with a win. So, very excited again for this card. Now, let's move on to One Championships card. All right, this One Championship card takes place tomorrow, which is Friday, and I believe it is going to be on Amazon Prime like it has been for the past couple times. That is why I have been able to watch one. I'm not going to give you too much detail on these fighters just because I don't know many of them. A couple of them I have watched a couple times because they've been on the Amazon Prime cards. So, in the main event, they got a featherweight kickboxing world championship fight. I do like how they kind of mix it up during the card. Not every fight is necessarily the same rule set, which is interesting, and it breaks up the pace a little bit. They have kickboxing fights on this card. So, I guess you would call it the co-main event, at least that's how it's listed on the website. They got a flyweight kickboxing world title. Then after, they have a flyweight submission grappling world championship match. I actually really enjoy watching the submission grappling matches. It's a 10-minute time period, and, the first person to obviously submit their opponent wins, or the person with the most legit submission attempts wins, by points. So very, it brings a different side of, of this combat sports world. You don't see a lot of grappling televised. I think it's, a really good opportunity to get to kind of put more light on the grappling competitive side of mixed martial arts. Moving on, we have we got an atomweight mixed rules match, so that this is an MMA match. Stamp Fairfax is one of their bigger stars. She also was a kickboxing champion at one, I believe. So Stamp Fairfax, a big name for them. So they definitely want to keep her winning, obviously. It seems like she's very, very popular in the organization. And then we have another flyweight kickboxing match, and, all these other matches, or there's a Muay Thai match. So again, I just really like, one, and how they kind of mix up again their structure with having mixed martial arts fights, Muay Thai fights, kickboxing fights, grappling fights. I like it, but I can see how it can be confusing to viewers, who maybe are newer to the sport. But again, it kind of sheds light on every aspect of fighting, and every different kind of competitive fighting, and that's the part that I really like about it. So that's my spiel on one's card, which is on Friday at 8 p.m. Now let's talk about Dana White addressing the media yesterday. All right, and here we go. This is just some of the things that Dana White said during him addressing the media yesterday. This is the first time that he's spoken to the MMA media after the New Year's Eve incident with his wife. For those of you who don't know, he was caught on tape. His wife slapped him first, and then he slapped her back. Very disturbing video. TMZ Sports has the video and has the public apology from Dana White. All the original stuff is on TMZ Sports if you want to check that out there. But just some of my thoughts that, on this first interaction with the media. Again, he went up there. He took full blame, as he should. And he even told people that they shouldn't be defending him. In which they shouldn't defend him. But even Dana White himself said that nobody should be defending me. 100% of the criticism is warranted. But the very interesting part of this press conference, I guess you can say, is, when they came down to asking him about the punishment, he said, what should the repercussion be? I take 30 days off. How does that hurt me? So basically, he's kind of taking, how does it hurt him? And I don't think it's more of the higher ups from him should be talking about the punishment for him, if they think it's warranted, which I think it is warranted. I think you should step away from the UFC for a period of time, because it's just like, come on, man, you got caught slapping your wife on video, and, it wasn't, it was a hard slap, and just, it's irreprehensible what he did, and so, it shouldn't be up to him to decide if he should step away or not. It should be out of his hands, just like if another commissioner or president of a league was caught doing the same thing, it wouldn't be up to them to set the punishment for themselves. I just think that doesn't make sense, because if you're going to leave the punishment up to the person who did it, most likely the punishment isn't going to be what it should be. It's just like, in my head, it's not making sense. Endeavor, they own the UFC. They have the power. Just make it not up to Dana to punish himself. That makes no sense. I'm not really understanding, and there's still been no comment from Endeavor or from any partners of the UFC. The UFC hasn't even made a formal awareness of what Dana White did. It's got to be up to somebody other than him to punish himself. It doesn't really make sense to me. And really what his consequences, the consequence or the punishment that he said that he said, here's my punishment. I have to walk around for however long I live, and this is how I'm labeled now. My other punishment is that sure, a lot of people, whether it be media, fighters, friends, acquaintances who had respect for me, might not have respect for me now. And I don't know if that's really, I guess you could say it's a punishment, but it's really just, it's a consequence to your actions. Now, that's just life. That's just being a human being. If you want to, be a human being that owns your mistakes, that's great. Own your mistakes. Tell everybody that you were wrong in your actions, and, that's fine. That's acceptable. I did something wrong. I take full responsibility. But when you're a head of a company, there has to be somebody higher up than you that, has to punish you because of your actions that are just unacceptable. They're unacceptable. And really, it's like I've been saying, it's up to the higher ups. It's not up to Dana White to punish himself. I don't understand why it seems like they're just leaving it up to him to kind of handle it how he wants to. I mean, it's great that he put out the apology with TMZ. It's great that he faced the media. It's a commendable act that he did that, and he was that he took the time for the media to ask him questions about the incident. Seemed like he was very forefront about everything, and what he said was fine, was acceptable. But again, the punishment shouldn't be up to him. It should be above his head. It should be to the company that owns the UFC Endeavor, and just it shouldn't be in his hands. The situation shouldn't be his at this point. It should be the company's situation. Yeah, it's a family matter, and he has to heal with his own family and his wife, I'm sure, and that's fine. But again, Endeavor needs to step up, which I don't think they will at this point because they haven't said anything, and it just seems like we're just going to move on without any leave of absence for Dana White. I mean, I'm sure they could have Mick Maynard or somebody else, step in that role for a month or two. Maybe he should take time off to go spend time with his family, and they should go to, I don't know, family therapy or something like that. If he really wants to make a change in his family life, I feel like time off is kind of a necessity in the situation. And he even mentioned his family, and he said his oldest is not happy with him and his wife, and that's a real thing that he now has to deal with. The embarrassment from not just the public eye, but from his family eye. And again, that's a consequence to his action. I don't know if I would necessarily say that's a punishment, but it's a consequence to the action. The punishment shouldn't be up to him. It should be up to the owner of the UFC, because that is their employee. Their employee did something really bad, obviously. Something that would get most people, if not all people, fired from their jobs. So that is just my thoughts on the Dana White facing the media, after that New Year's Eve incident. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To keep up to date with all MMA news, follow the KO Podcast on Twitter. Just type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. I am most active on Twitter. Also, the Instagram username is the KO_podcast, and the YouTube channel, just type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. That's going to do it for this episode. Stay safe. Thank you for taking the time out of your day for listening. Bye-bye.